What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, joined always by my main man, Steven Thompson. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk and subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. It is Victory Monday for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They are headed home after a win over the Raiders in Week 3, a 23-18 defeat on the West Coast. The first time that they have beaten the Raiders on the road since 1995, a game that I think largely got Pittsburgh Steelers fans juiced that maybe this offense has finally arrived and that the defense, well, they look like they're getting better by the day, by the play, and by the week. It is a rainy day. It's been a rainy weekend here in the Burgh, but I think that comes with fall. How you feeling, my friend?
Feeling good. It was a long week, back-to-back night games, but the gets a little easier when you get to cover back-to-back wins. And like you said, I mean, it wasn't just I think last night, but I think they proved something also against the Browns earlier in the week, and this was a bit of a continuation of some good stuff, some upward trajectory for the Steelers after Week 3.
Yeah, I think this was much needed. A loss after a win to the Browns, and I think you somewhat null and void a division win. You look at it and just say, well, it's the Browns. You're going to play the Browns. You're going to play anybody in your division harder than you'll play the rest of the league. The Raiders were not good coming into this game. The Pittsburgh Steelers continued to show that they are still not good. For those who did not hear, this is a great place to start before we dive into the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. Josh McDaniels, who made a crucial decision that led to plenty of questions at the end of the game. There was just about 2:20 left on the clock, 2:24, I believe. The Raiders are down 8 points, 1 touchdown and a 2-point conversion. They had all 3 timeouts left, I believe. So at that point, you're just trying to stop the Pittsburgh Steelers. When asked why he kicked a field goal on their own 8-yard line on 4th and 4, he goes, quote, "We would have needed another possession anyways." So, sometimes people forget, and Steelers fans forget, that, yeah, Mike Tomlin doesn't always make the greatest decisions, and he's terrible at doing things like challenging plays and, sometimes promoting offensive coordinators, but he doesn't do those things. And I think once in a while you got to remind yourself that, well, he could do math, and that's a huge part of the football game.
Yeah, like really simple. Like so I understand what he's saying, but that doesn't make it any better. Like that's the incredible thing. It's like, wow, you're technically right. You did need it. If you wanted to win the game, you did need another possession, but you got to tie the game before you can try to win the game.
Yes.
And he was trying to just win the game right away. And he ended up losing the game.
Shout out Kenny Pickett. Shout out Matt Canada. That's a perfect transition here. The Pittsburgh Steelers put up 23 points last night, all offensively, which is a huge something that you have to bring up at this point. It is Matt Canada's 10th game where the offense has scored more than 20 points, which is a milestone. We're getting places. At the same time, they put up 330 offensive yards, just under what the Raiders did, but 17 first downs, and I believe their time of possession was 30 minutes, just over 30 minutes, 30 minutes and 3 seconds. They won the time of possession game. That's huge for what the Pittsburgh Steelers have done over the last 3 seasons with Matt Canada as offensive coordinator. Kenny Pickett throws a touchdown, I believe just one, two touchdowns, completed 16 to 28 passes, 234 yards, and had a 108 passer rating. Big day for Matt Canada, big day for Kenny Pickett. You walk away from this game, what were your thoughts?
I mean, you talk about earning a promotion. Matt Canada, like really showing up the day after he gets his kind of mystery promotion. But yeah, it was, and I think the biggest thing was, so Kenny was throwing to a lot of open receivers. I mean, he was completing them, which he hadn't really done a whole lot through the first 2 weeks. But yeah, this was a team effort, between the run game getting going and Kenny being able to hit some open guys, make some good decisions, and then Matt Canada scheming it all open. It was really hard not to be encouraged by what they did. Obviously, the Raiders struggle on defense. They're not the San Francisco 49ers, but you are going to face more teams that look like the Las Vegas Raiders than you are the San Francisco 49ers. So I think this is more reflective of how the Steelers offense could look towards the as the season wears on. I mean, obviously you still have to actually do it, but against an NFL defense, they looked good, and they were efficient, and they scored some points, and that's the thing. The bar is pretty low when you have a defense as good as this. So take this good for what it is, and don't. I mean, I would say don't try to overthink it. Like don't try to think about, oh well, they weren't able to do this against the 49ers. They're going to face better competition. Like they look good for a night. This was progress.
Yeah.
No one's asking them to become the Kansas City Chiefs overnight. So take progress for what it is.
Yeah, I agree. I think you got to look at this and just say, well, it's only week 3, and that would be both good or bad. Like we've talked, we talked all the way to week 1 where we said, well, it's only week 1. It is what it is. They look terrible. You have to be honest in your evaluation, but at the same time, you have to take everything about where they are. And right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 2-1 heading into week 4. That's good. That's exactly where you'd like to be if you're any team in the National Football League. I'll start with Kenny Pickett. I think Kenny Pickett looked good. He looked better. I want to say better. I don't want to say he looked great. I think there were a lot of times where the game still got away from him. His accuracy was much, much better, which was a huge step forward. There were 2 really big issues for him coming into this game. That was his accuracy and his composure in the pocket. I still don't think he has the best composure in the pocket. I think he still had happy feet most of the time. There were a lot of them, like the Max Crosby sack, that was on Kenny Pickett. I don't know if he's definitely getting away from that, but he ran straight into that sack, and Chooks had an awful night. I'll give him that one. Chooks, you're locked in with Chooks for this season, but man, you wish that you were not, because that guy just cannot hold his own on the right side. Kenny more than once left the pocket way too early with almost zero pressure, and it showed. Like when he stayed in the pocket, even when he took a hit, he made a good throw, or he found Calvin Austin, or he found George Pickens over the middle. Like those were completions that NFL quarterbacks just make. It's just part of the game. It felt like at times things were still moving too fast for him, but when he could slow it down, and this was the first game that you were able to see that he could actually do that, I thought he played like a good quarterback, like who Kenny Pickett could be, and that's what the Pittsburgh Steelers need. It's a step in the right direction for sure. It's got to continue to happen, but it's much better than week 1 and week 2 with Matt Canada. Just like you said, gets a promotion just suddenly out of nowhere. Don't know what happened to Mike Sullivan, but according to the Scores Jordan Schultz, for those who have not heard yet, Matt Canada is taking on a more prominent role with the Pittsburgh Steelers offense and will now work daily with Kenny Pickett in all efforts to improve their quarterback play and improve their offense. The Pittsburgh Steelers are all in on this guy. Meanwhile, the Pittsburgh Steelers fan base is literally screaming and begging for them to get rid of him at all costs. They're not listening. They're saying, screw you guys. We know what you're doing, even though we haven't been successful in quite some time now. What were your thoughts before we dive into Canada? What were your thoughts when you saw the news of the quote unquote promotion?
It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I don't understand how the offensive coordinator can get promoted without becoming like the head coach or
Yes.
or like a front office executive. Sounds more like just a shuffling of like duties and like, who does what on a daily basis. But was he not working with Kenny Pickett before? Like,
well, I would guess
I don't
Sullivan
really
would be like the guy that's with him most of the time. And I guess since you have Mitch, so like usually like a position coach works with the younger guys like that. So like when Canada was brought in, it wasn't to help Ben, it was to help Mason Rudolph. We all saw how that worked out. Didn't work out very well. Sullivan would probably work with the younger guys, but with Mitch and Mason, the younger guys, Kenny Pickett. So I have no idea what Mike Sullivan's job is after this one. Like, yeah. I just feel like he just replaced Mike Sullivan.
Yeah, which, okay. I don't know. I felt like it was the kind of stuff that Matt Canada probably should have been doing anyway, like I don't, so I don't really know. Maybe it was just a show of confidence in Matt, and maybe it was just a way to say like a public show of support. Who knows? But it seems to have worked. I don't know. Right. Maybe it worked. Like it was good for a week. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'll be interested to. I'll be interested for someone to actually ask him like, hey, how does your job change? Like, how is this different now that you've gotten your, promotion? Like, what do you do differently day to day now that you have a theoretically different job?
So, do you want me to answer that? Because I can answer that for
Oh
you.
yeah, yeah,
I appreciate the question. That's how he's going to start that off.
yeah.
And then he's going to go something like, not much. We're pretty much doing a lot of the same. It's a team effort. This is a group thing. I trust all my coaches. I have full confidence in Kenny Pickett and all of my players. That's probably what he'll say. But I agree with you. Like, I am very interested to see what this promotion is, what this change of duties, like you said. Like, you can't be promoted from an offensive coordinator. I picture it sitting there like the whole offensive meeting is going on, and Mike Tomlin's like, all right, we're going to switch things up a little bit. Matt, you're going to start working daily with Kenny Pickett. And then Mike Sullivan's just like, isn't that my job? What are we doing here? Yeah, I have no idea. But just like you said, it did work. It did work for 1 week. And I'll say this, Kenny, or the offense as a whole, the issues on the field against the Raiders, almost exclusively the players' fault. Like,
Yeah.
it was just execution. There was not a game, or there was not a play call where I sat around and went, that was the wrong call, or that was a poor call. I thought it was all fine. I haven't dove into like rewatching routes and that type of stuff yet, but for the most part, like, receivers were open. There was a running game. There were issues in the running game, but even like you could go as far back as the fourth or the 3rd-and-1 Connor Hayward rush to start the game. Like, I liked that call. Like, it's
Oh really?
I mean, it's not the best call, but like,
I
a
didn't like that
fullback
call.
dive on 3rd-and-1, that's what you do. Like, that's an option that you try out to try to catch guys by surprise. And it didn't work. And partially because Connor Hayward is not a real fullback, but I think that if you have like a Kyle Kuzja or whatever his name is,
Use check, I think.
thank you, back there, I think that's a first down. If you have a good center, I think that's a first down. And then you come back, and I think the biggest thing is you made in-game adjustments where later you're running a QB sneak there, and you're like, okay, well, the fullback dive didn't work. Let's do a QB sneak. Like, that's huge. We have not seen any of that from Matt Canada yet.
Yeah, I think you make a good point about the adjustments. I also do think it helps to have had some semblance of a running game
Yes.
going on. Like, I don't know. So they, like you said, it started a little slow, and it wasn't always perfect, but they made a concerted effort to do it. And once they broke a few of those big runs, then you could see kind of some of the stuff they were talking about. Like, it's the play action came off of that, and like they were able to hit on some big plays. That was huge too.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, Kenny was able to use his legs, I thought, more than he has in a long time.
Yes.
Like, really effectively. So, I mean, like you said, it wasn't perfect, but there were so many of those like little milestones that you wanted them to hit, little things that you wanted to see that gave you a little bit of confidence that this could work, that this could be serviceable. Because, like I said, the bar is kind of low when you're aided by a defense that is this good or has been this good for at least the first 3 weeks of the season. You don't have to be complete world beaters to be a competent offense and to get this team to a really good spot.
That's what I'm saying. What did we? We've said it for 2 games now. You hold a team to under 20 points in Pittsburgh, you're expected to win. Or if you score more than 20 points, you're expected to win. 23-18. That is a perfect example of what the Pittsburgh Steelers mantra is. Like, the Pittsburgh Steelers defense right now is ridiculous. And yeah, they don't have the best cornerback group, but Joey Porter I thought looked good, and we'll dive into those guys here in a moment. But the offense did enough where, one, the defense was not exhausted by the end of the game. Nobody was getting hurt just because of fatigue issues. You allowed guys like TJ Watt, and Alex Highsmith was kind of nowhere to be found, but I think that was more game plan than anything. And you allowed these guys to eat, to stay rested and to be able to go out there and make it a huge impact. All you have to do is be an offense that doesn't lose a football game. And the Pittsburgh Steelers did that. I think Matt Canada, for the first time, tried not to be a coordinator who went out and just scored 80 points, Like, he was just like, all right, let's just score 20 points. Like, let's just see what happens, work the ball down the field. We'll be good. No need. That was my biggest thing, is for the first time this season, you watched a running play not go anywhere. You watched a bad pass or a bad play from Kenny Pickett, and the next play was not something ridiculous to like change the tide or to get things rolling. Like it was just like, okay, well that didn't work. Let's just call another normal play and we'll be fine, instead of an end around or a jet sweep or a pitch, although that pitch to Jaylen Warren, I don't remember what quarter it was, but the one where Kenny snaps the ball, pitches it backwards, straight backwards. Jaylen hasn't even moved yet. And then he runs. And I went, what was that, man? What are we doing? That was as bad as the Najee Harris. It was I want to say it was a draw, but it didn't look like a draw, but it was the slowest developing run of all time. There were a couple of those, but you had those moments, and then you'd come back and you'd just be like, okay, let's just throw a pass over the middle and everything will be fine. Just get 6 yards. And that's a huge step for Matt Canada. You have faith in Matt Canada right now?
Yeah. I mean, I think I don't know. I think I've always kind of been not as low on Matt Canada as everyone else was. I thought, like, especially this year, like watching those first 2 games, I was like, a lot of this feels like execution, like players not really execute, like players execute, and this looks a lot like, I mean, that's obvious, but it looks a lot better than it does. But I think you saw that this last night too, just the ability to stay on schedule with like a decent run game, that like opened up a lot of things for them. So I think I do have I do have confidence in Matt Canada. Like I do think that he is capable of doing what the Steelers need, like it's not, I don't know. I've never been as low on this guy, I think, as a lot of people are. And I think that he's proven that once the kind of tide rises and the players execute at the level that they need to, that this is a scheme that can work. I don't think he's the best offense. He's no Sean McVay or anything, but doesn't have to be.
Yeah. I will give you, I'll agree with you. And I'll say that everybody should give you props, because you have, like, as I asked it, I was like, yeah, Steven he's definitely been possibly the only one in Pittsburgh who's rode with Matt Canada through, like, even dating back to last season was a lot of like, well, Kenny kind of stinks, or like the offensive line stinks, or like this isn't, like, you've definitely been a Matt Canada, I don't want to say supporter, but
no. Don't say ugly things.
I'm not gonna
like that.
Nah. Just somebody who, you haven't jumped the gun on the guy as much as many others, and if it works out, I think that somehow, some way, there's got to be a T-shirt with your face on it or something that said I believed.
Yeah, I get key to the city or something like that.
Key to Matt Canada's farm in North Carolina or wherever he's from.
I'd take that.
Yeah, I'd take that over the city of Pittsburgh. Like, what's the, you're just here anyways. You might as well just hang out. What's a key to? Yeah, I agree. Huge day for Matt Canada. I think that he answered a call from a challenge from Mike Tomlin that very much so needed to be answered. Same with Kenny Pickett. We'll see how that works moving forward. We'll dive into our belief in this team in a little bit, but first, what's up, guys? I have super exciting news to share with you. We have merchandise, from t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, and nutties, and plenty of designs, from Pickens to Pickett, Muth, Bleed Black and Gold, and of course, all of your All Steelers talk gear, all available at blackandgoldapparel.myspreadshop.com or on the store tab at our YouTube page. We cannot thank you guys enough. We would not be here without each and every one of you, and it feels awesome to be able to represent the AST brand and to spread that representation out to all of Steelers Nation. We know that you guys and us, we are one, and this has been one hell of a ride. Again, we cannot thank you guys enough. Check out everything at blackandgoldapparel.myspreadshop.com or on the YouTube page, or the store tab, on our YouTube page, to get all your AST gear and whatever t-shirts, sweatshirts, shorts, nutties, coffee mugs that you're thinking. Again, thank you guys. Levi Wallace, Patrick Peterson, huge circles, red flashing lights on them early in this game. Fans were losing their minds on social media about how bad both of these guys were. And then Levi Wallace comes up with 2 interceptions, including a game winner, and Patrick Peterson comes up with an interception of his own, all forced by TJ Watt, except for the last one, I believe. Big game for both of them. You got thoughts on these cornerbacks and whether or not Pittsburgh Steelers fans should be freaking out or feel a little confident in who they got back there?
Um, I wouldn't say freak out.
Okay.
But man, like there's just this. The secondary is like the corners specifically are without a doubt the weakest part of a really good defense.
Yeah.
That's like a part of that's just how good everyone else has been, but man, like just getting run straight past like a lot of times, and I thought a lot of these interceptions, Jimmy G gave him some help. Like you said, T.J.
Yes.
Watt gave him some help. Like they they were in good situations to make those plays, and they made those plays. So you got to give them credit for that. But I'm still a little concerned about the corners. You just think about them having to go up against like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and like that stuff. That stuff worries me. I mean, even I think what like Seattle's going to give you in later in the season, like they've got there's a bunch of good receivers on this schedule, so I think I worry about that. But I also think that the Steelers can help them out with a little bit better, like because I think about really early in the game. Joey Porter came on for Levi Wallace, and he was covering Devontae Adams, and Joey didn't have to do much to force an incompletion against Adams because he had help over the top. Like you have to know when a team has one really great receiver, okay, let's not just leave Levi Wallace out on an island against Devontae Adams, who's one of, if not the best receivers in the league. Like let's help him out. Let's be realistic about what Levi Wallace is able to do and what he's capable of and who he's playing against, and let's not make him look bad on his, because Levi Wallace just cannot cover a receiver like that for an entire game.
No.
So I think it's a mix of, I think Levi Wallace is Levi Wallace, and you know who that is. So at that point, it becomes it falls to the coaching staff and to the defensive play caller to give him some help and be realistic about your personnel.
Yeah, I agree. I think that who, like just like you said, who Levi Wallace is. In my opinion, Levi Wallace is a phenomenal like cornerback 3 who could be a cornerback 2 if you need him to be. Patrick Peterson's probably in that same boat. Those are your starters, and you got to deal with it. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, this is where the challenge comes in, because for one side, and you have to mention this because just like you said, Devontae Adams might be the best wide receiver in football. He's, I think he doesn't get the respect that he deserves most of the time when people are talking about the great wide receivers in football. There should be nobody in there's like maybe 5 corners in the league that if they consistently got beat by Devontae Adams, you could judge them for it. The rest of them, you're like, okay, well, like what are you supposed to do against this guy? Like you're playing the hardest position in football against probably the best guy at the position that you have to cover. Like nearly impossible. But just like you said, you have to be able to utilize the players around you to make Levi Wallace and Patrick Peterson suitable. And you could do that. The Steelers have won in the past with a really strong defensive front and just like a do enough defensive secondary. They've never had, outside of Ike Taylor, there was no cornerback that came through Pittsburgh that probably is a long-term starter on another team before like Joe Hayden, or Steven Nelson. But before that, when it was the Ike Taylor, Brian McFadden, the Ike Taylor, William Gay, the Ike Taylor, Ross Cockrell days, there was never a cornerback too. There was never like that superstar. And later in Gay and Taylor's career, there was really nobody. And they just won straight with their safeties and their defensive front. They were able to force bad passes and have help over the middle, and that's what they need to do. They have Minkah Fitzpatrick. KZ is a phenomenal cover safety. Like, utilize him as much as you can. And, Keanu Neal's not bad either. Like, you could find ways to do that. But, yeah, you're right. You have to not freak out because it's who you are. It's who you're stuck with. You have to hope Joey Porter develops. And at the same time, you have to find a way to remove as much pressure from these guys as possible. Otherwise, you're going to continue to get beat. And just like you said, like, the list is ridiculous. Like, at some point, you're probably going to play OBJ. You're going to play, what's his name in LA is ridiculous right now, that rookie.
Oh, Puka Nacua?
Yeah, you play him in 3 weeks. You got Calvin Ridley. You got DeAndre Hopkins. You got, possibly Christian Watson if he's healthy. Amari Cooper again. All of Cincinnati. You know, you got Marquise Brown at some point. Does New England have wide receivers? Is that a position that they play?
Well, I
They have
mean,
Juju
they have,
Smith-Schuster.
yeah.
There you
Don't worry
go.
about it. I wouldn't really worry about him, but yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. There are names out there
Mhm.
outside of New England, obviously, that you have to worry about, and you gotta be able to work around that.
Yeah, and I think you make a good point about. It seems like they are just kind of counting on Joey Porter Jr. getting better and better as the season goes along, which it seems like he has, at least so far. I mean, he wasn't in very much last night, but he was good every time he was in, did his job. So I think that's that's a reason for optimism, I guess I would say, is that
Yes.
you can see Joey making strides, and there's a world where he gets to the point where he can be a real contributor, and then you can move Patrick Peterson around a little bit more, and just gives you more options in that secondary. So yeah, I mean, you kind of count on just being able to do enough until Joey's ready for that challenge and ready to be kind of a bigger contributor and more of a full-time guy.
Yeah, I agree. So last night, Joey Porter played 38% of the defensive snaps, 27 compared to, I'm trying to find them here. Are there other people here? Oh, here they are. Here's the starters. Patrick Peterson played 99% of the Steelers' defensive snaps, 71 snaps, and Levi Wallace played 93, 67. Like, you got to develop Joey Porter a little bit quicker. You know, you got to just toss him in the fire a little bit more. Who cares if he's ready? Put him out there. He's made plays. Stop. Like, if he doesn't make plays, cool. You tossed Kenny Pickett out there and said, hey, man, eat. You know, get eaten by the Wolves and fight your way back. And it hasn't worked out the greatest, but if you're going to do that with a quarterback, you got to do that with a corner. Like, you got to toss him out there a little bit more. You got to look for some help. I think he's got potential too. So at this point, you know, there's really nothing holding him back. Like, work him in there a little bit more and just see what happens. All right. Last thing I want to talk about here. Went through the offense, went through the defense, went through Matt Canada really succeeding for the first time in a long time in Pittsburgh. Like we said, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 2-1. They sit first place in the AFC North. If the season ended right now, they'd be the second place in the AFC. I don't know who they'd play, but
Buffalo.
They'd play Buffalo in the playoffs. That would be
which. Yeah, Josh Allen would throw 5 interceptions in that game. I can almost guarantee it.
That's huge. That is a real possibility. Buffalo in the playoffs, not really as scary as Buffalo during the regular season. How confident are you in this Pittsburgh Steelers team right now? Did you see this coming? And I mean, really, just are they a team that you could believe in? Are this Pittsburgh Steelers a team that you could believe in right now?
Well, yeah. So I mean, this ended up being a 1-score win last night, but I thought it was much more convincing than that. I thought they really thoroughly outplayed a team that was not as good as them. And so as a result, I mean, I think they took care of business, like I said, against a team that they are better than them, and that's what good teams do. I don't think. I think you definitely had wavering confidence after the 49ers game. It was a little bit lessened after the Browns game because you thought the defense played really well, but that just kind of seemed like a repeat of last year. This was different, I thought. I thought this week did a lot to kind of get me back to where I was kind of during training camp, and where I thought that this team that was not only capable of making a playoff run and probably should make it to the playoffs, but also capable of making a run within those playoffs. And I think I'm kind of back to that point a little bit. It's early. You don't want to swing too far one way or the other after 3 weeks. But yeah, I think everything we've seen so far kind of confirms what a lot of what we thought about this team during training camp, that it would be a process on offense. There would still be some kind of growing pains, but the defense is still elite and the schedule is still manageable, and you're still in a division that's super competitive and super wide open. So I don't think my expectations have, dipped a little bit beginning of the season, but we're back to, I think, where we were kind of right before that 49ers game.
Yeah, I agree. If anything, I think that maybe we got a little too high there at the end. You know, a little too high at just before the regular season. It went from reasonable expectations, and I thought we managed those reasonable expectations very well. Like, every time we talked about a Super Bowl, we mentioned how like, okay, it's not their year, but the year could be coming and the pieces are in place to get this train rolling. And then just before the season, it was like, yeah, maybe the Pittsburgh, they might be that team, man. They could pull this off. And then week 1 came and you're just like, oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah.
Nah, we're good. And now we're back to the middle ground, just like you said. Like a team that, if I had to guess, I'd still say they're a winning team this season. I still think they could pull off 10-plus wins. I still think they're a playoff team. I still think they could compete for the AFC North. And the fact that Joe Burrow might end up on IR and miss 4 games is huge. The fact that the Baltimore Ravens fell to the Indianapolis Colts, who might be good, but also the Baltimore Ravens might just have question marks, huge. You know, the Cleveland Browns, they won by like 20 points yesterday, and still the only highlight that I have seen anywhere on social media is Deshaun Watson throwing a pass backwards to a running back and it becoming a fumble. There are concerns there, and you already have a game on those guys. I agree. I think that when you ask, are the Steelers real? Are the Steelers back? Yes, they're back to where they were in the beginning of July, right before training camp. That's where they are. Can they finish first place in the AFC North? Yeah, I think that's a really strong possibility right now. And I'm not going to say it's guaranteed, but I mean, the fall of the Cincinnati Bengals is significant because that was the only team that was a real serious, like almost unbeatable threat to them coming into the season. But, you know, if I'm going to call... Oh, go ahead.
Well, don't the Bengals now have 2 losses in the division? Like, they've already played a third of their AFC because they lost to the Browns and the Ravens, right?
I don't think they played the...
Yeah, they played the Ravens week 2, didn't they?
Did they?
Am I making that up?
You might be making that up because I don't think the Ravens have played a... Oh, they did. They did.
Yeah.
They lost to the Browns and the Ravens.
Yeah.
So,
like, they're way behind the 8 ball already. Like, I think everyone else has a division win already, except for the Browns, or except for the Bengals.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, that's so even better. You know, the Bengals are way behind the 8 ball right now, and you're looking at the situation and you're saying, oh, this is all manageable. You know, this is, as long as they don't shoot themselves in the foot, which is very possible, everything's
Can't have injuries
good.
either.
Can't have injuries, but that's, you know.
But I mean, even Cam Hayward's gonna be out for a while. But I don't think
Deontay Johnson's out. Like,
yeah, I don't think the defensive line skipped a beat, and the offense looked way better. Like this week, not saying they're better without Deontay Johnson, but like they
but they have the
some
pieces,
things, like,
you know.
Yeah,
they have they have the George Pickens, they have the Calvin Austin. You know, those options actually look good. Good.
Yeah, and they had a sorry, no, you were good. And they had a run game too. Like, I think that's huge too. Like, they're finally figuring that out, and that changes a lot of things for them.
Yeah, exactly. Like the things are flowing. It's the right time to be in the right direction. I mean, are they real? I don't know. We'll find out. But for right now, you got to feel pretty good about where the Pittsburgh Steelers are. With that, we're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for spending your Victory Monday morning with us. We very appreciate it. Make sure to check us out on youtube.com/allsteelerstalk. Subscribe anywhere that you get your podcast. Find all of the game recap and Josh McDaniels' hilarious answer to why he kicked a field goal instead of tried to score a touchdown at the end of the game at allsteelers.com. And as Pitt prepares to bounce back from North Carolina in a game that they look pretty good at. Got to give Phil a little bit of credit there. Let me ask this before we leave here. The boos for Phil coming out of the game, louder than the boos for the Steelers offense, or anywhere close?
Oh, no. Well, I mean, it was like there were way more people at Steelers game than this.
If
Pitt
you had to
game.
compare,
like
size crowd.
per capita noise,
yeah.
It was pretty loud for Phil because it was pretty early in pregame. It was maybe a half hour until kickoff, and it was like just the students there.
Oh,
but man,
gosh.
it was loud. And then I thought he played really well in that first half. Like, it was, and then he gets knocked out with a concussion, which is unfortunate. But yeah,
that is unfortunate.
It was pretty loud. People real into the Pat Narduzzi really hit something on the head with the Boo City thing, man.
Boo City, man. The Steelers tweeted out last night. They said Win City, leaving Win City, and I went, oh, I don't think they meant to do that, but they did it, and it's going to be That's
Oh,
gonna be all year long. I know, because it's Sin City, but no,
yeah.
Boo City. I know,
Yeah.
but it's Boo City. It's always Boo City. All right, with that, we're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.